Hello friends, today's topic is amendment to Schedule 3 to the Companies Act. You may be aware that there was an amendment made in Schedule 3 on March 24, 2021. This amendment is more about disclosures and less about your accounting part, you can say. So your major chapter will remain the same on Schedule 3, but the disclosure requirements will go up because of this amendment in Schedule 3. So why this amendment was made in Schedule 3? There was amendment made in CARO, and CARO requires lot of areas to be checked by the auditor. So management will give report to the auditor for checking those items. But then the government thought, why not to make similar amendments in Schedule 3 also. So once you make a similar amendment in Schedule 3, company's management in any case now will be obliged to give these disclosures in the financial statement itself. And if it appears as a part of financial statement itself, then the entity or the auditor has to comment on that also, has to audit this item also. What is the duty of the auditor? To audit the financial statement and check whether it represents true and fair view. That means the financial statement should comply with Ind AS and also the law of the land. So now the law of the Land Companies Act itself is requiring you to give certain disclosures. So with that objective, these amendments were made in Schedule 3. So it will give additional disclosures requirement while preparing the financial statement of an entity which is covered by the said schedule, that is Schedule 3. The purpose of amendment is that the reporting requirement by the auditors have increased substantially because of CARO amendment, etc. And there was no similar amendment in Schedule 3. So auditor will be required to audit this area, Benami property, but there is no similar requirement in Schedule 3. So now what they have done, they have tried to align whatever amendments were made in CARO or other audit reporting area with the requirement of Schedule 3. So now it will become a part of his duty also, and it will become duty of the management also to give such information to their stakeholders. As a stakeholder of the company, this disclosure will really be useful to us. So therefore now this Schedule 3 will be applicable from which year? For all the accounting year which are commencing on or after 1st April 2021. Amendment made to disclosure requirement. If you are asked by someone why these amendments were made, so that it will align with the amended CARO reporting requirement 2020. Is it right? It becomes easy for the auditors to audit now the requirement given in CARO, because the management has to give such disclosures in the notes to account or financial statement because of similar amendment made in Schedule 3. CARO has become applicable in India with effect from 1/4/2021. Schedule 3 amended is also applicable from 1/4/2021. So this amendment is good because a lot of information which was earlier reported in the audit report will now also be captured in the financial statement. Is it right? So there will be a similar reporting in audit report also and in the financial statement also. Management is required to provide information to the auditor. But with the amendment in Schedule 3 also, now the management will be duty bound to report such information in the financial statement also. So this will help the management also, the auditor also, and the stakeholders also, users like investors, creditors, bankers, government, they will also be benefited because of this amendment. As we will go ahead, you will see how the users of financial statement will be tremendously benefited from this amendment in Schedule 3. So the purpose of this amendment is to summarize, improve the quality of disclosures. Improve the quality of disclosures. We are not going to teach you any accounting entry today, only disclosure requirement. This disclosure requirement will enable you to understand the financial position better, financial performance better, liquidity position better, and you can take a more informed decision. Is it right? This will of course put lot of pressure on the management now, because certain information which had never been disclosed earlier will now get disclosed in the financial statement, which means it is available to shareholder, bankers, lenders and other users, and they can accordingly take decision, they can accordingly ask relevant question to the management also. So what are the key improvement they have made? This is a small summary of key improvement. One, aging of trade receivable. That was there earlier, aging of trade receivable, more than 6 months, less than 6 months. But now they have given more criteria. We will see. Aging of trade payable. Earlier aging of trade payable was not there only. Then aging of capital work in progress also. Which means if the project is going on, sometimes the project goes on for years together and it is not completed only, you have to give disclosure. And similarly, if you have intangible asset under development, you have to give the disclosure in terms of their aging, that this is under development since 6 months or 1 year or 2 year or 3 year, and that will help the users to understand financial statement better. Another area of disclosure they have improved is you need to disclose disputed balance of trade receivable. If you have dispute with the debtor, disclose that also. Balance where there is a significant increase in credit risk. That was not earlier disclosed. Earlier was more than 6 months, less than 6 months, secured, unsecured, doubtful. But we don't know how much risk has increased, which of them are in dispute. Then detail in respect of utilization of borrowed fund and securities premium. So whether you are able to utilize borrowed funds or not, disclosures will be required. A significant disclosure is where the company has defaulted in making payment to bank, financial institution or other lenders. That you have to disclose. After giving this disclosure, it will be very difficult for you to raise funds. You are disclosing in your own financial statement, we have defaulted in payment of interest, principal, loan, etc. So basically this will put lot of pressure on the management. Then disclosure of certain ratios also. One important amendment which is relevant for you also, because you are a CA, potential CA, ratios will be disclosed now. Earlier we used to disclose only one ratio, EPS. Now there are other ratios also they have mentioned. We will see that list in a while. Additional information about promoters, shareholders and related entity transaction. Some more disclosure. What is the percentage of stake held by the promoter? More disclosure relating to related party transactions. Again, something of your interest is crypto asset related disclosures have been given. Have you heard crypto related disclosure? Crypto. What is crypto? Louder. Currency, cryptocurrency. Example. Any example of cryptocurrency? Carda? Card. Cardano. Bitcoin. I know Bitcoin I know. Ethereum. Spelling? UM. Ethereum. That is what I have written. RUM. REM. Ethereum. These are cryptocurrencies. So you have to give disclosure also if you have any crypto asset. And next is detail of undisclosed income also. That is also very significant. Shareholder will simply raise a question mark on the management's integrity. If the company says we have not disclosed so much income in the past P&L account, will the trust be maintained in future? No. This kind of disclosure is actually going to put a lot of pressure on the management not to enter into such transactions, which later on you will have to disclose as undisclosed income. Then next is compliance with amended provision of Companies Act related to restriction in layers of investment by holding in subsidiary. So what Companies Act says now, you will have only two layers of subsidiaries. You have only two layers of subsidiary: parent, subsidiary 1, subsidiary 2. In case if you have one more subsidiary below this, disclosures will be required, because this is violation of companies law, and therefore you have to give disclosures. The disclosure requirement will come in a while, and then disclosure of additional relating to CSR spend. CSR means corporate social responsibility relating disclosures are given in this Schedule 3 also, which is in line with Companies Act also. So you have to give a long list of disclosure with respect to CSR activity. And one more important amendment is details of Benami property. Benami, not in the name of the owner, name of other parties. Give disclosure. Okay, in order to align with the disclosure made in the relevant act. So there is a Benami Property Act. Under that also you have to disclose. So therefore now Schedule 3 itself will give a list of Benami properties, and this will really put a lot of pressure on management, and also shareholder will ask the question why the property is not in the name of the company. Sometimes it is a genuine transaction where they hold the property in the name of promoter or director. Okay, to carry out with certain requirement. Details of any transaction not recorded in the book. Oh my God. And that has been surrendered or disclosed in income during the income tax assessment. So if you have not recorded an income, but now it has been caught by the income tax department and you have offered the same for income tax purpose, please disclose. Please disclose to your shareholder that yes, we were doing tax evasion. Okay, openly you have to disclose now. So one disclosure has been now disclosure relating to shareholding of the promoters. This will help the outsiders to know who are the promoters, who are the people who are running the company, who has got how much stake, and accordingly you can take your investment decision. You should know the people behind the show when you are investing in a company. Is it right? Are they people of reputation or people of integrity or some shady character that you have to disclose? Puppetry. Yes. So you have to disclose about promoters like this. Promoter's name, number of share held, percentage of total shareholding, and change percentage during the year. So one can also understand whether promoters are increasing their stake in the company or diluting their stake in the company. Accordingly, they will understand whether they should also remain in the company or run away from the company. Because sometimes the promoters may be trying to dilute their stake, sell their stake and run away. Possible? So details have to be given separately for each class of share. And if there is a percentage change, it will be computed with respect to number of shares at the beginning of the year. So what was you have beginning, at beginning 1 lakh share, at the end 1,10,000 share. So there is a 10% increase in promoters holding. But if the shares were issued during the year for the first time, then you will take the date of issue of share for computation of percentage. One important change in the disclosure requirement for trade payable. Earlier, we did not have aging schedule for trade payable. Have you heard trade payable more than 6 months, less than 6 months in your, let us say, intermediate accounting also? No, there was no requirement. But now they have introduced something new for the first time. Aging analysis of trade payable will be also provided, which was not there earlier. Another change, disputed amount will be disclosed. Oh my God, that means there is a risk involved. Disputed amount means there is a risk, you have to pay more. Company's reputation may be at a stake. Company's goodwill will be affected if you don't pay to your creditors on time. So those will get reported on the face of the notes. Those will be reported in the notes to account now. Everybody can read. So first is aging schedule will be now prepared as follows. Creditor outstanding for the period less than 1 year from the due date of the payment. Less than 1 year. 1 to 2 year. That means from the due date of the payment, they are outstanding for more than 1 year. More dangerous. 2 to 3 year. Even more than that dangerous, more than 3 year. What the auditor is doing? When you do audit, don't you check all these items? You check that this creditor is outstanding for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. Why are you not paying? Identify the reason. And if you don't have to pay, then why you are keeping in the books? So now it will put pressure on auditor also. You will have to check why they are not paying. Is it right? Sometimes there can be bogus entries also. You may have just passed an entry for purchase to creditor, but you don't have to pay. So there can be fictitious entries, bogus entries, fake invoicing must have been done. Siphoning of funds can be there, etc. Or there will be genuine dispute with the creditor. That is why you are not paying. Quality issue, quantity issue, reconciliation issue. But find out the reason. Not only that analysis, you have to also disclose in this format also how much is due to MSME, micro, small, medium enterprise, other creditors, then how much amount is disputed dues with MSME and how much is disputed dues with others. So this also they have added separately now. What about trade receivable? Old schedule had only two breakups, more than 6 months, less than 6 months. And there was no requirement to disclose disputed amount. Correct? Now they have made this amendment in trade receivable where the aging schedule will be like this. And therefore you also have to follow this in your offices now from this 1/4/2021 onwards. This is same, more than, less than 6 months. 6 months will be counted from the due date of payment. From the due date of payment, because normally we give 1 month credit, 3 months credit. So once that 3 month is over, then you have to start counting 6 months to 1 year. Now they have given these additional slabs. Old, what you have studied before this had only 2 slab, less than 6 months, more than 6 months. Now 6 months to 1 year, 1 to 2 year, 2 to 3 year, more than 3 year. So the moment you will find you have entries in this column, or let us say this entries in these columns, you have amount. That is risky, very risky, because this is the amount recoverable from your customer and is not paying. So you are going to lose this money. And then what is the further breakup? They have said you have to divide into disputed and undisputed also. Divide into disputed and undisputed. Trade receivable considered good, undisputed trade receivable considered doubtful. Trade receivable disputed considered good and considered doubtful. So what is the purpose of this table? Can you understand? Now the companies will have to justify why the debtors are outstanding for such a long time. What steps you have taken to recover them? What is the proportion of disputed trade receivable to total trade receivable? All these analysis will help in understanding the future risk involved in recovering money from debtor. The shareholder, the banker, the lenders, governments, they will all look into these numbers, and accordingly everybody will take the respective call. Even the valuation exercise will get affected because of this. Because in valuation you take net asset method, asset minus liability. But now if you have more people under this disputed category, more and more debtors is in the last 2 or 3 columns, even the valuer will give some discount while doing the valuation. So if the total debtor is 5 crore, but 2.5 crores are more than 2 years or disputed, he will not consider them in the valuation. He will just take 50% of that. So that will affect the company's valuation in a big way. Okay. So additionally, companies are required to disclose trade receivable as considered good, considered doubtful, considered credit impaired. Credit impaired means bad debt. Okay, that word you have seen in Ind AS 109. Then trade receivable balances, where there is a significant increase in credit risk, disclose. Undisputed and disputed. So this will be your breakup of trade receivable. So broadly what you will do, undisputed, disputed, under undisputed considered good, considered doubtful and considered credit impaired. And under disputed also considered good, considered doubtful, considered credit impaired. And where the risk has gone up significantly, that also you'll have to disclose. One of the major assets in our balance sheet is trade receivable in case of many companies. Yes or no? Today you will do one exercise. Take the asset side total of a company. Take debtor. Divide by total. You will be surprised that 30-40% of total asset is debtor. And that is something which I have to recover. And if I am not able to recover, it is a loss. So that is why disclosures are given. Now, although it is not a part of the Schedule 3, rational, but we will discuss this paragraph. The lawmakers don't write reasoning for everything, but as a businessman, as a shareholder, as a stakeholder of a company, I need to know why these changes were made and how it is going to benefit the users. Understood? So are you interested in knowing the reason for bringing the change in the presentation of trade receivable and trade payable? Say yes. Some of the key reasons for bringing these amendments in trade payables are, so first we'll see trade payable. Additional disclosure requirement will result in transparency and quality of disclosure of aging of trade payable. So this will bring more transparency. Earlier I used to see one item in the balance sheet, trade payable, 2 crore. I don't know anything more than this. But now I will get to know how many of them are less than 1 year due, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, more than 3. How many of them are disputed, non-disputed? So don't you think that disclosure will help me more than just a total figure of 2 crore rupees? Yes. Earlier, total figure was given like this: trade payable 2 crore. It was inadequate in decision making, in understanding. But now, the breakup of trade payable into various year-wise category, into disputed and undisputed category, will help me to understand the company's financial position better, risk better, reward better. Okay? Why the companies have huge old credit balances? You have to ask the company. I can see the creditors are outstanding for more than 3 years. As a shareholder, you have a right to ask. Can you please give me the explanation for that? One reason could be trade practice and the nature of business only. That is okay. That is okay, because sometimes your business model is such that you allow 3 years of credit, 2 years of credit, and you do not insist on payment exactly on the due date. Is it right? Trade practice is there. Because if a certain business model gets developed, you can't change, you can't do about it. And it works. And it works. Okay, that is one reason. Second reason could be due to liquidity issue. You are not able to pay, you don't have cash. Is it right? So in the newspaper I have read, Jet Airways is not able to pay salary only, for the fuel dues also, government taxes also. Why? Liquidity issue. They don't have money only. Then there can be dispute with the creditor, legal or otherwise. The requirement of separate disclosure of disputed amount will bring out this fact. Understood? Wrong recording. Another reason for not paying is wrong entry only. You have credited some party who don't exist only, or who is not the right party, but your accountant has passed the entry, and now you are not able to properly trace it. I hardly believe this is possible in today's world, because in computer system you have so many checks and balances to identify the party. You will write his PAN number, GST number, you will assign him some code number. Okay, but still this can be a reason. So then you find out where is the mistake and rectify it. Instead of carrying that balance for year after year, year after year, then can be overstatement or understatement of vendor balance. Wrong accounting, wrong punching, coding error, and cost of purchase and inventory with consequential impact on profit and loss, which, if material, may result in financial statement not showing true and fair view. One possibility is that you have done wrong accounting only. If you have done wrong accounting, it means your P&L account is also not true and fair. Balance sheet is also not true and fair. So therefore, one will be now able to do more detailed analysis, because management knows the moment shareholder will see the figure in 3 year and above, he is going to ask you the question. So before you release your annual report to the shareholder, you will try to first get rid of this item as much as you can. Yes or no? You will tell your accountant, find out who are these people, why we have not paid, what is the reason for the difference, and you will try to get rid of this item as early as possible. Otherwise, you have to face the shareholder in AGM. And shareholders are very smart nowadays, like you people. Sometimes there can be recording of payment in wrong vendor account. It is like I am teaching you foundation accounts, rectification of error. Goods purchased from Ram wrongly credited to Rama account. Yes or no? Yes. My teacher used to give such kind of adjustment. Ram, Rama, Raman, non-recording of discount, etc. Creditor has given discount, you have not recorded, so that balance will continue forever. Wrong, fake purchase. See, overdues will also give a hint that purchases were not genuine only. Purchases were not genuine only. You have only passed the entry purchase account debit to creditor account. But it is just a fake entry. There was no real purchase. And what you do after few years, you make the payment after 4 or 5 years so that nobody remembers much, but that money goes to some account which belongs to you or your relative. So it is a siphoning off of funds. This will also help us to check whether there is a siphoning off of funds by the promoters, persons in high position or employees, or with the intention of overstatement or understatement of profit and loss. That is the reason now they have brought this amendment in the Companies Act Schedule 3, over invoicing of import. That means you have to pay 5 lakh rupees to your foreign supplier, make it 50 lakh, book 50 lakh, then remaining 45 lakh you transfer to your Swiss bank account later. There is nothing to laugh. This is regular practice followed by many companies. Imports are overbilled. Is it right? So if you buy this pen from some foreign country, it may be 20 rupees pen, you may book it for 2500 rupees. You make the payment also, and then other party will transfer the difference to some other account. Possible? Yes. Now when you look at such numbers, more than 2-year-old, 3-year-old, above 3-year-old, you have to now inquire in detail as to why these are outstanding. And receiving excess amount in undisclosed foreign account for diversion or round tripping. That is what I have told you. So I should not name any company, but this is what happens. Okay, that is why FEMA regulations are so strict also. But still, we will find ways. Businessmen will say, you make any number of law, we will find our own ways. We have, as Indian, only one motto in life: don't pay tax. Come what may. Is it right? Learning tax is important, interesting. Paying tax is never interesting. Huh? How to save tax? It is not tax saved, it is always tax evasion. You can call it any name. Delay in payment is due to oversight. Now, if there is a delay in payment, it will affect the reputation of the company, goodwill of the company. So, sometimes due to company's employees' mistake, management's mistake, you may risk your goodwill also. So, the moment you find some creditors are not paid, you will identify the reason and try to settle with them. At least in my office, we do that. When we prepare the balance sheet at the end of the year, I want to see who are the creditors who are pending. And normally, the moment I get to know these creditors are pending, and if the payment is due, I make the payment and clear them so that it doesn't remain outstanding in the books beyond a certain time. It affects my goodwill. Because if the bill is due and it is appearing in the balance sheet, it means something is wrong in our payment system, and then the creditors will not respect us. Okay? So next time when the employee will go to purchase, they will say first you ask your boss to online transfer the amount and then we will deliver the goods. But normally it does not happen with my supplier, because they know that the moment the bill will be presented, the payment will be cleared in 1 or 2 weeks. Is it right? So that is also important. Creditors should not be overdue. Because of this amendment, it will now put pressure on directors or management, auditors of the company, to check the overdue creditor properly, and if required, those creditors which are no longer required to be kept in the books, you need to write it back Unnecessary, you will not make your balance sheet heavy. Same logic applies for trade receivable also. In fact, for trade receivable, we have to be more careful because here I have to receive the amount. Company is at a higher risk as far as trade receivable is concerned. Check the reason for delay because this may affect the company's financial health. Is it right? Many companies have been wound up because their debtors have failed to pay them. In the last pandemic, we have seen many businessmen, very good business houses, had one serious problem. Their debtors were not paying. Debtors said, I don't have money, how will I pay? Why are debtors not paying? Because they have some problem. If debtors come under problem, you will come under problem. If your business model is to rotate the funds by selling, buying, you are at a risk. Okay. In many balance sheet, debtors form a large value. Therefore, debtors are very useful for understanding the liquidity risk and other risk from investors' point of view, lenders' point of view, analyst point of view. Disputed balance, old balance, balance with significant increase in risk is a good starting point to ask probing or relevant question to the management of the company. Is it right? So when you also do audit in companies, don't you ask the company to give you data-wise analysis? Even though law may require more than 6 months, but for your satisfaction, at least in our company, we used to ask for various aging. And then we will put our hand starting from the last one. Then slowly and slowly going backward and checking why these are overdues. Get the confirmation from them. Send them a confirmation letter stating that we owe so much balance to you. Put your stamp and signature. Sometime you force them to get the confirmation so that we will know that yes, debtors are genuine. Or we will ask them to make a doubtful debt provision. But this is very risky area. Hence the Companies Act have made amendment. If you are asked a question why debtors are overdue, one reason could be overbooking of sales invoice. Overbooking of sales invoice. This you will also find in your offices. If you look at the sales pattern of February and March, try this in your office. With some company who has to increase their revenue, February sale is 2 crore rupees. And suddenly you will find in March it is 5 crore rupees. And average for the year is 2.5 crore. You will wonder why this happens. More or less every month 2 crore, 3 crore, 2.5 crore. Suddenly in March 5 crore. Why does it happen? Because, louder. Fake invoices, over invoicing. May not be fake but over invoicing. You will make the invoice before 31st March and later on you will dispatch, settle, etc. And that is why in the balance sheet now the data will appear. Why will management make over invoicing? Because they have to meet targets. They have to increase their top line, sales figure. Salesman will try to increase the sale because he gets commission. MD wants to increase sale because he also gets sometime of 2% of the net profit or 1% of net profit as a bonus. So everybody is in that race, and if they don't meet the target, they will book the invoice. Later on, either they will reverse it as a sales return or they will settle it with the customer later. Okay. So these things one has to check. And it happens. I have also done audits and I have seen all these things happening. Then some companies do early recognition of revenue without transfer of control only. Ind AS 115, go for a toss. book the revenue before control is transferred. Increase the revenue. So of course customer is not going to pay. Customer will say, I will pay only after control is transferred. Customer gives you advance for purchasing a car on 31st March. But you have not delivered him the car. So 115 will say, don't book revenue. But you will book the revenue on 31st March. Even though you have not transferred the control to the customer. And as usual, fake accounting of non-existent sale also. If you do fake accounting, debtors will appear in the book. But how are you going to collect? It does not exist only. Later on, you will either do sales reversal, bad debt, impairment. After 3 years, it will become time barred, law of limitation will apply and you will put it as bad debt. My God. All this can happen. Under invoicing of export. Under invoicing of exports and receiving excess amount in undisclosed foreign account. Under invoicing of exports happen, over invoicing of imports happen. By looking at this aging analysis now, you will get some idea. Okay. What is the purpose of doing such kind of fake invoicing, etc.? Companies want to increase their sale. Company want to increase their profit. Company want to evade income tax. Company want to evade GST. That is the reason. Company wants to divert funds, diversion of funds and misappropriation of asset. So as a management, it is not something which you should do. As an auditor, it is your responsibility to check that such transactions, if happened, you need to report it. Am I right? Auditors cannot stop you from committing fraud. You are free to commit fraud. It is not auditor's duty to give you sermons on not to commit fraud. But auditor has to report. Auditor has no duty to tell you how the business has to be done. But if he finds that it is not as per the legal provision, if it is going to affect the shareholders' interest, if it is not as per the standards, then he has to report it. Is it right? So board and auditors of the company have lot of pressure now. If they find there are overdue debtors, find the reason. If required, write it off. Don't carry in the balance sheet forever. PPE, an intangible asset, have one small adjustment now as far as disclosure part is concerned. You have studied under Ind AS 16 and Ind AS 38, companies can revalue their PP and intangible asset. So what is the extra line they have added now in Schedule 3? If the revaluation is 10% or more, if the revaluation is 10% or more, then that disclosure will have to be given that this PPE or this intangible asset has been revalued by more than 10%. Has been revalued by more than 10%. That is a small disclosure change. But this is now on the screen, an important thing which company has to take care in future. Title deed of immovable property not held in the name of the company, not Benami, not in the name of the company. So sometimes company hold in the name of promoters or directors. Okay. Details of all immovable property. Immovable means basically land and building. Other than property where the company is the lessee and all the lease agreements are duly executed in favor of the lessee. Not applicable to lease because you are not the owner. But the lease agreement should be duly executed in the name of lessee, whose title deeds are not held in the name of the company in the following format, and where such immovable property is jointly held with others, details are required to be given to the extent of company's share as under. So what are the details you have to give? Name of the relevant items, PPE, investment property, PP retired from active use and held for disposal, and others. This is the relevant item in balance sheet. Then write description, land, building, land, building, land, building. Gross value. Title deeds held in the name of the party you have to write here. Name of the party, Mr. A. Okay. Miss B, Mrs. C, whosoever, not only promoter. It is written here whether the title deed is in the name of promoter. So Mr. A can be promoter. Mr. B, Miss B can be director. Mrs. C can be relative of promoter or employee of the company. Is it right? Then property held since which date? And reason for not holding in the name of the company. There may be some legal reason, some whatever reason that can be disclose it. Also indicate if it in dispute. Who are the relative and promoter? They are defined in Companies Act. So the definition of relative will be as per Companies Act, not as per Ind AS. Ind AS 24 is related party, but here for the purpose of Schedule 3, definition of relative and promoter will be taken from Companies Act. Fair valuation of investment property. So one more disclosure you have to give now is fair value of investment property. In any case, that was there in Ind AS 40. It was there in Ind AS 40 also. Accounting is done using cost model, but fair value is disclosed in the notes. So company will provide details of immovable property other than the property where the company is the lessee and the lease agreements are duly executed in favor of lessee, whose title deeds are not in the name of the company in the prescribed format. This we have just now discussed. This is for immovable property whose title is not in the name of the company. Purpose of the amendment to align it with the requirement of CARO. Revaluation of PPE that I have told you. Revaluation of PPE and intangible asset. First thing I have told you, if there is a more than 10% change in revaluation, that you have to disclose. Second, you have to disclose whether the revaluation is based on the valuation by a registered valuer. Oh, so you can't do any revaluation now. You have to take the valuation report from a registered valuer. Who is a registered valuer? Registered valuer is one who is defined as Rule 2 under Rule 2 of Companies Registered Valuer and Valuation Rules 2017. Is it right? So you just can't put any number. Take the help of a registered valuer who is defined in Companies Act. Another important change is capital WIP. What happens? You are constructing assets like building. Now, do you remember old disclosure? Only one line item. If you remember, your balance sheet will have one line item called CWIP. That is called capital work in progress. But now the company also will have to disclose that whether this CWIP is there for less than 1 year, 1 to 2 year, 2 to 3 years, more than 3 year. And further you'll bifurcate into projects in progress and projects temporarily suspended. This will be very useful for investors to know that your funds have been blocked and the management has to respond why this project is taking so long, why the projects have got suspended. This simply means your money is blocked because you can't generate income from capital WIP because it is not in a situation where you can use it for business purpose. So lot of money sometimes gets blocked in capital WIP. Now the aging analysis will help us to understand better, and then management also will have to be careful in delaying the project because then it gets reported, then shareholder will raise the query. So what is the further disclosure will be like this: project 1, project 2, etc. So in the same thing what they can do, project 1, 2, 3, project 1, 2, 3. For all such projects, now these disclosures will be given for CWIP. So this will really be useful for the users to understand where your money is getting blocked. What is the reason for liquidity problem? You see so many assets in the balance sheet, but company is not able to make payments to its creditor on time. So this will help you to identify the liquidity issues with the company. So detail of project where activity has been suspended shall be given separately because your funds get blocked here. Funds gets blocked. Huge amount of money sometimes get blocked if the project which has started is suspended. Is it right? If you go through roads, you will see there are few buildings which are under construction for last 10 years. Since last 10 years, I am seeing that this building is getting constructed only but not happening, which means crores of rupees has already gone into that. This will help you to understand the liquidity, the risk, reward better. Same logic for intangible asset also. Companies spend lot of money on intangible assets development like software, technology, okay, etc. Nowadays, vaccine, or some pharma formula, medicine, it goes into for several years, and you really don't know whether this will be successful or not. So here also they have given the same requirement that if you are having intangible asset under development, give the aging schedule, divide into two categories: projects which are in progress and the projects which are temporarily suspended. In case of intangible asset, even it is more dangerous. Suspended means probably it does not have now any value left. Why you are keeping in the balance sheet? At least in case of PP, we can see a building. Something can be done later on. But here you are doing research and development on certain things and you know that it is not going to now complete. The amount is appearing in balance sheet. Let the user know, okay, about this kind of items. Accordingly, they will take their own decisions. And you have to divide it project wise also. Project 1, 2, 3. Details of project where activity is suspended is required to be disclosed separately. So this will help us to understand liquidity of the company better, risk better. Because if you have put crores of rupees on some intangible asset under development and that has failed or is not going to happen, that money is lost and this amount will be written off in the P&L account sooner. And if it hits the P&L account, your EPS will fall. Market price of the share can also fall. Another requirements are also above requirements are also applicable to intangible asset and intangible asset under development as may be applicable. What is the reason for such disclosures? Reason for disclosure of capital WIP intangible asset under development aging is: one, in the original schedule, total balance of capital WIP and intangible asset under development was required to be given but without aging. Disclosure of aging will be useful for qualitative analysis of the composition of those balances. So underline the word qualitative analysis. One can understand but whether there is a liquidity issue, there is a risk involved, there is a dispute involved, because most of the projects are suspended or many of them because of the dispute also. Like properties have such issues. Court will put a stay on that and you can't complete it. Litigation start. Will provide the extent of old balances lying in this account. And sometime the management has simply carried them in the balance sheet and they may not have any value. So what you'll have to do, you may have to write it off. In such cases where balances are high compared to historical balance or compared to previous year, an obvious question will arise that needs to be explained by the management and the reason for variation. The purpose of writing this rationale in your notes is, as a student, you have to know why amendments are brought in. But because you will say for last 50 years we are following the same presentation of CWIP, why suddenly this requirement? Because investor now wants more reason, more information, so that he can understand what is the risk that he is carrying. Looking at CWIP of 50 crore means I should be happy, company has a project. But that project may have been suspended for last 3 years, so that money is as good as nil. You are not going to get anything in return. One major change now, companies will have to be very careful now. You have to disclose the details related to Benami properties. That means the owner is not known. Benami. You are the owner, but actually it is held in the name of some other party. All these are done sometimes to avoid taxation. Is it right? There can be other genuine or wrong reasons also. So where any proceeding has been initiated or pending against the company for holding any Benami property under the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act 1988. This law was already there, but we were not making the disclosures. But now the Schedule 3 has been amended to disclose the detail of such property amount, details of beneficiaries, that is, who are the parties in whose name you have held this property. If the property is in the books, then reference to the item in the balance sheet. It may be in your book also. So which item is that? If property is not in the book, oh my God, then the fact should be stated with reason. Where there are proceeding against the company under this law. Oh, so if suppose the company is caught under Benami Property Transaction Act, give disclosure that we have been caught under Benami Property Transaction Act as an abettor to the transaction. That means we have also helped in the transaction, participated, party to the transaction, or as the transferor, then the details should be provided. What are the details you have to provide? Nature of the proceeding, status of the same, that is, where do you stand in the court of law right now, and the company's view on the same. This is really going to put lot of pressure on those management who are indulged into such transaction. Disclosures will put lot of pressure on them. Shareholders nowadays are very demanding, they are informed, They want their money to be put to right use. Okay. So what was the purpose of the amendment? The purpose of this amendment is that it will provide information on Benami property, whether recorded in the books or not. It will give you information about what is the current status of the legal proceeding. Is the company winning or losing the case, and how it is going to impact the financial statement on account of liability which may arise on this account, because you may have to pay huge penalty under that law. So you may have to make provision or show it as a contingent liability also. So therefore now the management will have to also see whether I need to make a provision or whether I need to give a disclosure of contingent liability. Such liability may include, so if you are caught, you have to pay additional tax. It means you have violated some property tax also or some other tax. Then you have to pay interest and penalty under the income tax law. You have to also face consequences under Benami Property Transaction Prohibition Act also. Give disclosure. Let your user know what you are doing. Let your user know what kind of company they are investing in. And accordingly, they will take a more informed decision. Is it right? So I have a friend who is an equity research analyst. I am just going to tell you something different. Equity research analyst people, they analyze the performance of the company in every which way, not only financial transaction but others also. Then one day I asked him, should I invest in this company XYZ? I cannot write the name of company. He said 6 years ago there was a case against one of the directors of the company. I said that was 6 years ago. He says, in my opinion, since you have asked my opinion, don't invest. Because if the directors are people with such character, you can't trust that company. Is it right? So that is what this kind of information will happen. It becomes really, really difficult for such company to raise funds from the market. The moment the directors come under question mark about their integrity, then it is very difficult for such companies to approach the market and get money. They may get it, but then again at a very high rate of interest, and they will have to compromise a lot on terms and conditions. So to get a loan of 2 crore, you have to keep asset of 20 crore rupees as collateral. Is it right? Yes, of course this happens, because then you don't have a choice. So your bargaining power goes down. Another area of amendment is more disclosure with transactions related to related parties. Is it right? Especially in the area of loans and advances given to director, key management personnel, and related parties. Because this can simply be a method of transferring of funds. Yes or no? How? Easy. A Limited will give loan to related party 5 crore rupees, and he has not paid for 3 years. Law of limitation will apply. In India, law of limitation says if you can't recover money in 3 years, then you lose your right to recover money. Time barred, unless you have taken some action, etc., unless the legal proceeding starts before 3 years. But of course, if your objective itself is to transfer funds, siphon off the money, you may not have taken any action. And after 3 years, you write off that amount. What you are doing? Siphoning. Second reason, why do you need to give loan to relative? As a shareholder, I have invested in the company to do business for which the funds were raised. When you bring IPO, you write down the objective of the company is to do so and so business. And what you have done here? Giving loan to director. no rate of interest, zero. Why you give loan to director? Because your business was not created for that purpose. Okay, so these are bogus, wrong transaction. Get it reported, and I will tell you the shareholders will fire at the management. Okay, left, right, center. Yes, if you attend the AGM, you can see some of these shareholders get really angry, even though the person sitting in front of him can be Mukesh Ambani or any chairman, any big name, but shareholder will come and speak on that day. Okay, yes. So where loans or advances, now once it is reported, the shareholders will get to know about it, are granted to promoter, director, KMP, and other related party, either severally or jointly, that are repayable on demand or without specifying any terms or period of repayment. Shabash. Without specifying any terms or period of repayment. Keep the money as long as you want. Okay. Then give following disclosures. Who is the borrower? Director, promoter, KMP, related party. Amount of loan and advance which are outstanding, and what is the percentage to the total loans and advances in the nature of loan. So give percentage also. And if you, of course, if you find this amount is quite high, then there is a question mark on the integrity of the management. Is it right? Because I believe this transaction should not be there only. That is what I believe. To maintain a good corporate governance policy, don't give loan to promoter. Also, disclosure requirement will be further details on the quantum of lending to above related entity. So what is the total amount given? Materiality or balance? Materiality, percentage. You have written one percentage column. This will help users to understand the exposure of the company to the above entities. How much percentage of your total loans and advances are to promoters, relative, directors, KMP? One new amendment now, which was not in earlier Companies Act Schedule 3, relationship with struck off companies. Do you know struck off companies? Hello ji, struck off companies whose names have been struck off from the register of companies maintained by the government. In last few years, government has done something which you might be aware. Many companies have been struck off. That means they don't no longer exist as companies in India now. Why they have struck off the name of many companies? Because many of them are shell companies. That is, they don't really exist. Were created only for some benefits. There was no transaction. So more than 1 lakh companies' name have been struck off. And now there is a problem. You have invested in, A has invested in B. B's name is struck off. B does not exist anymore. So what will happen to that money? Is it right? So you have to give a disclosure of your relationship with a struck off company whose name has been struck off from the list of companies incorporated in India. Because this is really dangerous. You might have given loan to such company. That company may be your debtor. Yes or no? And now it is difficult to recover the money from such company because they don't exist in the eyes of law anymore. So give disclosure. Disclosure requirement is you will write the name of those companies. How are you dealing with that company? So you may have investment, you may have a receivable, or it may be a payable, it may be share held, or any other outstanding balance. Write the amount. This will help us to understand the seriousness of the risk involved. Okay. If the amount is really material, you are at a risk. And then how this party is related to you. So whether that party is your subsidiary or associate or joint venture or parent company, etc., that you have to disclose. Next is registration of charges or satisfaction with registrar of companies. This is very simple. Here we have to give a disclosure where any charges or satisfaction are yet to be registered with the registrar of companies beyond the statutory period. That means it has not been registered during a given period. Registration of charges, have you studied in law subject? Yes. Why you have not registered? Give detail and reason thereof. Compliance with the number of layers of companies. Compliance with the number of. So now what Companies Act has done, there is a section 287 read with companies restriction on number of layers rules 2017. So there will be one parent company. Under that parent company there will be a subsidiary. Under that subsidiary you can have one more subsidiary, not more than that. This I have told you in FR holding company chapter also, Ind AS 110. This much is permitted. This is called chain holding. Chain holding. So how many subsidiaries can be in this chain? 2. In the old Companies Act there was no limit. But then the company used to create subsidiary below subsidiary below subsidiary, and it was very difficult to keep a track of money. You will invest here and the money will flow down to n number of companies. You don't know where is your money right now. Okay? This was giving rise to lot of dummy companies. Okay? Money was getting siphoned off from one place to another place. So you can invest in S1, S1 will invest in S2, S2 in S3, S3 in S4, and this way your funds will flow from different companies to different places. To reduce that, this rule has been brought in. It will help us to keep a track of where the funds are being utilized. But if you have not complied with this provision, give the name and that CIN number of the companies beyond the specified layer. Who are these companies who are beyond the 2 layers? And the relationship and the extent of holding of the company in such downstream companies shall be disclosed. The moment you will disclose it, some government officer will come after your life, because he will say you have not followed the law. Okay. I don't know what are the penalty provision for that you will see in your company's law book. But yes, there is a violation of the law. Company violating the law means its integrity is questionable. Yes or no? Any entity which is not following the law of the country where it is operating means your integrity is questionable. Your honesty is questionable. So for a shareholder who really means integrity and honesty a lot, will not invest in such companies. Is it right? I gave you example of a friend of mine, so who simply refused to invest in a company where management was caught in some small case 6 years ago. Because human beings can't change. Once you are born with a certain DNA, this whole life you will carry it. Okay? Of course, somebody can change also if you want. One major thing that has happened, which you will like it, is now the companies have to disclose some of the important ratios in the notes to account. So, which means once you qualify and go for interview, maybe the interviewer will ask you, calculate current ratio of a company, debt equity ratio, debt service coverage ratio, return on equity ratio, inventory turnover ratio, trade receivable turnover ratio, trade payable turnover ratio, net capital turnover ratio, net profit ratio, return on capital employed ratio, return on investment. So these are the required ratios which you have probably studied in financial management. Okay? They may ask, yes, they can ask you. But that is not my topic now. I am an accounts teacher. I don't know FM. Okay? Don't ask me to take a chapter on this now. This is a full chapter. It takes 4 or 5 days to explain and solve. So revise your ratio analysis chapter. Okay? Companies are also required to explain. Now you can't put any number. Current ratio is, for example, current asset upon current liability. You have to explain what items you have taken in the numerator and what items you have taken in the denominator. So you can't just put any number and give the ratio. The shareholder will be smart enough to understand whether you have properly calculated or not. And one more disclosure. If there is a variation of 25% or more compared to the preceding year, then you have to disclose that also. If any of this ratio changes by more than 25%, plus or minus, either side, disclose. All this ratio, if you see, are very important for understanding the risk. Like debt equity ratio is for risk. Debt service coverage ratio is for understanding risk or for liquidity or for return. As a shareholder, earlier many normal shareholders are not able to calculate some of the important ratios like return on capital, return on equity, return on investment. So I have seen many people, they invest in the company, but if you ask them what is the return on capital employed of this company or return on equity, that they don't know. So a company may be earning a return on equity of 3%, still is happy. Are bank FD gives you 4.5% now. And he is happy. At least the return on equity should be more than what you can earn easily outside. Matters which require consideration on ratios. The purpose of above ratio is for better understanding and analysis of financial statement. So instead of every shareholder sitting down with a calculator and doing the calculation, now it is ready-made available to you. Of course, the analyst used to do that. The long-term investor who invests big amount of money, they do this calculation. But in general, investors were not able to do because they were not trained for such calculations. Now they can do it. Now they can understand. Okay. So you can understand that it is for benefit of general investor. The author is giving one suggestion. This is suggestion. Falling ratio should have also been included. Like for example, it is not there. This is my suggestion, author suggestion. Gross profit ratio should have been included because that also helps you to compare and understand the operating efficiency. Buying and selling, buying and selling expertise you can understand from that, and you can compare on company to company basis also. Sometimes if there is over invoicing, under invoicing, that will get caught, or over inventory valuation or under inventory valuation, that gets caught in the GP ratio. Anyway, you have to do it yourself separately. Operating margins you have to disclose. Operating margin means earning before interest and tax and depreciation divided by sales. This is also a better way of understanding the performance. But what they have given is net profit only. By the time you reach net profit, you have lot of non-operating item which affects the profit. So unnecessarily you have loss due to fire also in that, loss due to sale of plant. So that is not operating profit. So maybe you can add this also in, maybe in the next round of amendment, suggestion to the MCA to include such ratios also. EBITDA margin, this is your EBITDA margin. Material consumed to sales ratio, employee cost to sales ratio, advertisement and marketing to sales ratio. So if they want to improve disclosure further, maybe they can include such ratios also. Is it right? Then cash flow related ratio. Cash flow related ratio means ratio derived from cash flow statement of the company. So one more important thing is that they will have to disclose cash flow related ratio number 1, current cash to debt ratio or cash flow coverage ratio. How it is calculated? Net cash flow from operating activity divided by average current liability. What is the benefit of this ratio if calculated? You will get to know that your cash flow from operating activity, is it sufficient to pay your average current liability? Example, cash flow from operating activity is 5 lakh. Average current liability is 2,50,000. This ratio will be 2. You will be happy. Why you will be happy? Because you can pay your current liabilities out of the cash flow generated from operating activities. So it will be easy for you to meet your short term liabilities. Your business generates enough cash to pay your short term liabilities. Another ratio which will be useful is cash flow coverage ratio, which means cash flow from operation divided by total debt. Here we have taken only current liability and here we are taking total debt, which means you are sufficient to pay all your debt or not. Is it right? Higher the ratio, better it is. This helps us to check the long-term solvency of the company. A company should be able to pay its liabilities out of the cash flows that it generates. Yes or no? Are you not interested in such ratio as an investor? In India now you have cash flow statement. The purpose of cash flow statement is this only. Users can now check whether cash flow generated is sufficient to pay liabilities or not. Short-term liability as well as long-term liabilities. This helps you to understand whether company will remain solvent or not for a longer time. Why are cash flow ratios required? Logic. Rationale for giving cash flow ratio. It helps us to understand liquidity better. It helps us to check whether company can pay its short-term and long-term liabilities in time or not. Because those company which can't pay their short-term and long-term liability, then those company will have a liquidity risk. You will ask, balance sheet is already there, P&L account is already there, then why we need one more statement? The answer is, balance sheet gives you the position of asset and liability on a given point of time. From that you don't know how much cash you have generated. It will give you cash balance but on a given point of time. Then what is the P&L account? P&L account does not give you cash flow generated by the company. P&L account gives you profit. Profit is affected by non-cash item. Profit is affected because of accrual concept. Income may accrue but not converted in cash. What is the point? Because to run the business you need cash. Cash is the king. Cash is the real thing. Profit is an accounting concept. If you have earned profit does not mean you have earned cash. Profit needs to be translated into cash, and therefore cash flow ratios are also useful. Okay. Next point is compliance with approved scheme of arrangement. So if the company has entered into arrangement, which you will study in your law subject, section 230 to 237. So usually that merger acquisitions which happen, they are called arrangement, amalgamation. Company will disclose that the effect of such scheme of arrangement have been accounted for in the books of the accounts of the company in accordance with the scheme. So what company has to disclose? As per the scheme which the court has approved, the effect of that has been given in the books of account and in accordance with the respective accounting standard. So if it is yes or it is Ind AS, whatever is that, you have to disclose that we have given the effect of the scheme approved by the court in the books. If there is any deviation in this regard, shall be explained of holding of the company in such downstream companies shall be disclosed. Any deviation will be disclosed. Not very important for you. Additional disclosure in notes to profit and loss account. Now they have really made life of companies little difficult. Following disclosures will be made in notes to account. And what will be the implication? Understand, you have to disclose undisclosed income. Reconciliation of Income Tax and Companies Act. So if companies have undisclosed income, okay, then company will have to give details of such undisclosed income which have been surrendered and disclosed for income tax purpose under the Income Tax Law 1961. Okay. So what is the problem with this disclosure? If you find your company has shown undisclosed income in the notes, that means for the shareholder it was not disclosed, which means previous year income were underreported. Correct? Previous year income was underreported, the meaning of this. And now you are saying we have disclosed this income to my income tax department. Won't they get angry on you? Yes. But you are not required to disclose if you have gotten immunity for disclosure under any scheme. Like government will come out from time to time, voluntary disclosure scheme. And that VDS scheme also says that you don't need to disclose it in your financial statement. Then you are exempted. But otherwise you have to disclose. And state whether the previously unrecorded income and the related assets have been properly recorded in the books of account during the year. Oh, so now because you are saying it is undisclosed income, have you rectified your books? Have you rectified your books by bringing that income and the corresponding asset in the books of account or not? Although they have not mentioned it, but it will affect Ind AS 8 also. What is Ind AS 8? Prior period error. The fact that you have not recorded income in prior year, which means it is a prior period error. It is a prior period error means if the error was committed before the previous year, you have to give one additional balance sheet. Opening balance sheet will have to be given by you, giving the effect of this undisclosed income. Have you understood? Because then Ind AS 8 will apply. It means there was an error in the past of not showing income. Although Schedule 3 will not give comment on Ind AS 8. But as a student, we have to understand if it is an Ind AS compliant company, then opening balance sheet of previous comparative year will have to be given, which will rectify the error committed in the past. What is the purpose of giving the disclosure? It will enable users of financial statement to understand the impact of undisclosed income on the financial statement of the company. Not only that, they will be able to evaluate the appropriate recognition of undisclosed income in the financial statement of the company. How it would have affected the financial statement of the company. Tax implication and the nature of disclosures. More importantly, the investor will really get annoyed or angry at the management. They may even ask for change of the management. Is it right? They may withdraw their investment from that company. They may ask for repayment of any loan given to the company in case if they get to know about such information. So this kind of disclosure will highlight that the management's integrity is questionable. Okay, management is following irregular practice. Financial statements are not reliable. How can I invest in such companies? Even the auditor's role will become under scanner. Why have they not identified the undisclosed income in the past year? Why have they not followed the proper audit procedure in the past years? And therefore, this will really be a lot of difficult situation, put a lot of difficulty for management and the auditors. As a article clerk also, you are also going to be responsible. Am I right? So you have to really do audit well using all your audit tools and techniques so that undisclosed income can be known in well in advance. Next disclosure requirement is CSR disclosure. What is CSR? Corporate Social Responsibility. Companies Act have put a pressure on the management that you have to spend 2% of average net profit of last 3 years in CSR activity. This is given in section 135 and schedule 7. There is a chapter also in the syllabus CSR. Disclosure requirement now has increased. So what is the change here? More disclosures will be given now, like amount required to be spent, amount actually incurred, shortfall at the end of the year, total of previous year's shortfall, reason for shortfall, nature of CSR activities conducted, and details of any related party transaction. For example, contribution to a trust controlled by the company in relation to a CSR expenditure. So you are giving money to your own trust only. Disclose it. Money is just transferred from your company to some other related party, and where a provision is made with respect to a liability incurred by entering into a contractual obligation, the movement in the provision during the year should be shown separately. So in case of any provision made for expenditure incurred, disclose the movement of provision, opening balance, addition, deduction, and closing balance. Now something which you will like and enjoy. Details of cryptocurrency or virtual currency. Last 10 years approximately, there has been a major revolution, and that is cryptocurrency. This revolution is so big that it may make the banks, or what we can call central bank of a country, redundant. Not today, 20 years down the line, Reserve Bank of India may become a useless entity. May become. Federal Reserve of USA may not be required only. Why? Because private currencies will float now. So there are so many cryptocurrencies now which are floating in the market, and they are acceptable, not legally, but they are acceptable as a means of exchange, as a medium of exchange, and therefore transactions are getting settled by transacting in cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrencies are held as asset also, as financial asset. Their values also appreciate or depreciate, right? In India right now, the cryptocurrency is not official. It is, I don't know, illegal or not, because it is not illegal also. It is not legal, but it is not illegal also. If it was illegal, then why will they advertise on the TV that you can purchase cryptocurrency for as small as 100 rupees also? There are so many exchanges in the country or websites where you can buy cryptocurrency. Right now, government is not saying it is legal or illegal. RBI has not accepted it so far. Okay, banks will not accept cryptocurrency payment, but in private transaction it is happening. There are people who have made crores of rupees by purchasing bitcoins. Okay, but government has not done anything to them. Is it right? My question is, our lawmakers have amended Schedule 3 that if a company deals in cryptocurrency, make following disclosures. And you will find right now there are many cryptocurrencies now, starting with Bitcoin, and now you have Ripple, Litecoin, BitShare, Straight, Dogecoin, Zcash, Ethereum, Monero, IOTA, Icon, Name, Binance, Steam, Waves, Arc, Neo, BitConnect, Dash, Bytecoin. And I don't claim that this list is exhaustive. In fact, now governments are planning to come out with their own cryptocurrency. So very soon Japanese government, Swedish government will come out on cryptocurrency, and our Priya Modi ji is also working on that, and very soon you will find Modi coin also in the market. Yes, Modi coin, Modi Ram, Modi Cash, Modi Ro, Modi To, Modi Con, Modi Share, Modi Connect, Modi Shah. Modi Rajnath, where the company has traded or invested in cryptocurrency or virtual currency, because they are in digital form. They don't have physical existence. You just get a right, okay, and you that money is kept in some digital wallet. I don't know how it works. I have never tried. During the financial year, after your batch is over, I am going to buy Bitcoin. Okay, 100 rupees only. Yes, I will definitely try to understand. The following will be disclosed. At the most, what I will lose? 100 rupees. Profit or loss on transaction involving cryptocurrency will be disclosed. So they have made the amendment in the law, even though companies may not be dealing right now. But who knows? They will allow you. In US, they have allowed it. Tesla company says we can accept payment in cryptocurrency. Huh? Now they are saying we will not accept. Again they will say we will accept. That is okay. Amount of, because earlier cryptocurrency was only trading in dark net. Do you know dark net? Internet is official, open for everyone. Dark net is only for few transactions. Dark net is for cyber crime, terror financing, drug trafficking, So there also you need money for buying guns, machine gun, AK-47. You can't make official payment. So you make payment through these bitcoins. But then bitcoins now are used for genuine reasons. Buying a car with bitcoin. So bitcoin and such digital coin are the future, like it or not. Like it or not. 20 to 25 years from today, all these currency note, all this Gandhiji note, all your uh, NEFT transaction, online transaction will become redundant. Your children will ask you, Papa, you are so outdated. Why don't you buy Bitcoin? Amount of currency held as a reporting date. How many Bitcoins you have or digital currency you have. Then deposit or advance taken from other person for the purpose of trading or investing in cryptocurrency or virtual currency. So if you have taken any deposit or advance for doing this cryptocurrency transaction, disclose it. So right now they're only asking you to disclose. That does not mean it is illegal, because if it was illegal they will not put it in the law book for disclosure purpose. Government stand right now is it is neither legal nor illegal. So according to situation they will deal with you. Okay. If you vote for them, legal. Vote against them and you are found holding Bitcoin, illegal. So that is the current status. Okay. Cryptocurrency or virtual currency transactions are increasingly undertaken by companies. Currently, there is no specific accounting standard to deal with accounting and recognition of cryptocurrency and valuation. So, one of the challenges today is, as on this date, there is no accounting standard. In fact, nobody knows what is the status of cryptocurrency. So, cryptocurrency, some people believe it is a derivative because its value changes. Every day you'll find the value of Bitcoin is changing. Some people think it is a financial asset. It is like another mode of investment. Like one of my friends says, gold and Bitcoin has only one difference. Gold is physical. This is also useless. A 100-gram gold biscuit is as useless as a Bitcoin when it comes to physical use of that. But that is in physical form and you give value. Why not give value to this item also? Is it right? Financial asset. Some of the authors say that this is an intangible asset. Some of them are saying it is inventory. Right now, accountants are working on the exact scope of cryptocurrency. So maybe in next few years, you'll find there is some guidance note or accounting standard or IFRS or US GAAP on cryptocurrency also. Is it legal tender? Is it really money like cash and bank? Or is it an investment? All this question mark will be there. That will be resolved. So in your notes, I have given some discussion by ACCA body about what is the status of cryptocurrency. So that is a question mark. How they have to be valued is not known. So till that time, that doubt will always be there, because there is no IFRS Ind AS accounting standard US GAAP on cryptocurrency. Anyway, now we have come to the end of this chapter. Only we'll discuss what are the difficulties management will have because of these amendments. This is our view on impact of amendment in Schedule 3. Lot of additional disclosure requirements are to be given. For small company, it will be really a challenge. and it will be a costly affair, and it will require them to invest in softwares and systems, because the kind of data that these amendments require will come through softwares. If you have many capital work in progress going on, then which is 1 year old, which is 1 to 3 year old, and how much amount is invested, all this the software will have to capture. Your software will have to capture debtors of different aging, creditors of different aging. Okay. Lot of updates on software will be required. New software will have to be purchased to generate the required information, or your existing software will have to be modified. So who will enjoy these amendments? The accounting software company will have a good day, will have field day. Okay, they will now promote our software is Schedule 3 amendment compliant. Kindly update, only 20,000 rupees per annum license. Yes, you have to take the benefit of the situation, whether you are this side or that side of the chair. And what will be the impact on auditor's responsibility? His scope of work has gone up as it is overburdened. Auditor is overburdened. If you audit large company, you will find there are so many volume, the volume is so high and the time available is so less that it's really difficult to do your audit properly, but still they have to modify their audit procedures and program. They have to identify several risks involved, which is given in the standard like trade receivable, trade payable, capital WIP, etc. ICI is expected to come out with revised guidance note on Schedule 3 to Companies Act and CARO, reporting to incorporate guidance on amendments. Auditor would be required to follow the procedure laid down in guidance and amend audit program accordingly. So even the auditor will have to change their audit program, audit procedure. There needs to be lot of coordination between auditor and the management now, so that the new information and detail can be obtained for audit purpose and they can do their audit work properly. Practical difficulty, if any, faced by management would need to be discussed to sort out the issues. This chapter requires lot of disclosures. Management may not be able to give all such disclosures. Am I right? So therefore, you need to really coordinate with management. Management should explain to the auditor what is their practical difficulty, and then together they can work and give the necessary disclosures. So going forward, these disclosures will help users of financial statement in a big way. At the same time, it will put lot of responsibility on auditor and management. Okay, so thank you very much. And this was a small video on amendments in Schedule 3 to the Companies Act. Hope it is useful to you. Thank you.